Hello, my name is Ava Zlosdorf, and my presentation is on differentiation in the classroom. There are three different things that we can differentiate with our learners. We have readiness, interest, and learning profiles. So, using these three things, we can better differentiate for the students. So, we're going to start with readiness. Readiness is all about timing. So every student is going to be at a different pace because some students learn faster than others in certain subjects. We're all different. And one way we can differentiate is by going from simple to complex. Basically, it's saying that some students understand the basics sooner than others. So to differentiate, we give those that understand the material work that is more advanced than those who are still learning the basics. So you work with the students that are still learning the basics while giving those who are advanced material that is appropriate for their learning level. And the example that was in the book was instead of having students identify one theme, which is the basics, they instead connect various themes from different books or from the same story because that's more complex. Another way to differentiate readiness is by going from dependent to independence. So for this, I sort of interpreted the book as the I do, we do, you do method, where some students may struggle in the we do section, and while others are more ready to go on to the you do, the student does. So instead of keeping those students that are ready to be independent from doing that, you continue to work with the students that are struggling, while those who are ready to be independent can do independent work. And there's three different areas for readiness. We're going to start with content. So giving some students basic contents and other advanced content, which is sort of what we talked about before, a little bit with the simple to complex. An example is give students a Spanish assignment where some get the beginner level of reading and the others have more advanced or expert level, depending on where they're at. Process is another thing that we can differentiate, and we can do this by giving activities that require different levels of thinking. So giving students homework, some of them have the summarization questions, while others are given questions more on expansion of the material. And the last thing is product. So this is giving students different rubrics for performance assignments. And this one I don't think would work well in a gen ed classroom because it's sort of like punishing students that are doing well to give them more strict rubrics. So I think this one will work better for special ed students in a gen ed classroom where they get a different rubric than the gen ed students. Our second main area of differentiation is interest. And this is all about engagement. So what you can do is use existing student interests into lessons. For example, like some autistic students have special interests, incorporate those into the lessons whenever possible. Another way to differentiate is to have interest groups. So this is basically having little centers around the classroom focusing on a specific part of the lesson. The example in the book was about different habitats. So one table would be like Arctic habitats and the other would be like more woodsy habitats. So students can choose which one they're more interested in. And it doesn't matter which one they choose because they're all related to the lesson. And they all will get the objective from that. Real life application is a really easy way to incorporate student interest, and it also fits with the standards, at least on the English end, where students are supposed to be connecting the school to the real world anyway. So you doing that as a teacher will help train them to do that as well. And it increases engagement because students find value in what they're learning if they can apply it to their real lives. Again, we're going to go through those 3 areas of content, process, and product with interest now. So content for interest is allow student choice whenever possible. So for English, give them choice for what book they choose for a report. And for math, maybe you could give them a couple websites that they can do activities from. Process, the cooperative learning model is a great way to keep student interest because in the jigsaw version of it, student groups each take a piece of the lesson and teach the class their piece. Cooperative learning requires students to talk to each other, and they enjoy doing that, so that's why that's a great way to keep interest. And for product, let students choose in what way they display their knowledge of a topic. So whether that's through writing, drawing, making a podcast, or video, it's something I've noticed that is done in this class a lot, which I enjoy, and other students also enjoy it because we all like having choice. The final way that we can differentiate is through learning profile. This is going to be all about multimodal teaching. In other words, teaching with different ways as much as possible. And this profile is made of learning style, which we will talk more about, intelligence preference, which is basically just learning style, if we're being honest. They aren't very different from each other. Gender and culture. So culturally, there are some more communal cultures, so they may like students from those communal cultures may enjoy group work more. And for gender, the book talks about how females typically like collaborative work, whereas males prefer competition. For both of these, it said to be careful because just because a student is from that culture or that gender doesn't mean that they automatically fall into the majority here. Like maybe there's some women who prefer competition. So it's just, I don't really know why I was in there, but maybe to give teachers an idea of these are 2 different ways you can differentiate. Now we're going to go on to learning styles. Newsflash, learning styles are a myth. And there was a study with students of different learning styles where half of them were put in a group with their preferred style and the other half were not. And there was no statistical difference in student success. So if learning styles were correct, the ones that had been put in their group with their preferred should have done better, but there wasn't. So therefore, learning styles are a myth. As one of the videos from our module said, you are not a visual learner or an auditory learner, nor a kinesthetic learner, or more accurately, you are all these kinds of learner in one. So we should not be boxing our students in. And multimodal learning is the answer. So instead of boxing them into you are this style, it's let's teach using all of them whenever possible. So now we're going to go through the content, process, product for learning profile. For content, be multimodal. So an example would be including captions with podcasts so that people who like to read can read and the people who like to listen can just close their eyes and listen. Again, multimodal. You're going to sense a little pattern here for the process, though. The example in the book was Menu for Success, where students could choose from a selections of activities that can help them learn. So this is sort of, and this kind of overlaps with the interest, where when you're given choice is just always good for students, so always be doing that. And the last thing, product, you guessed it, multimodal. And the example in the book said to combine process-based work, like written assignments, portfolios, or presentations, with a test so that students can work on test taking and also get a little bit of both, because it's good for students to know how to do both, because both are found in the real world. So, today, what have we learned about differentiation? I'm going to give a little summary. Readiness is one way to differentiate, and that's all about timing. And some examples we had was going from simple to complex. Remember, staying with the group that was simple and let the ones that are more advanced to do that. And then dependent to independent, work with those who are still needing that extra help, but let those that are getting more independent do that. Interest. This was all about engagement. And some ways we can keep interest up is connect what we're teaching to previous knowledge, to have them apply it to the real world, do cooperative learning models like the jigsaw model where they teach each other, and choice. And the last way we can differentiate is through learning profile. This is all about multimodal teaching. Remember, learning styles are a myth, and we want multimodal content, processes, and product choice, and just using as many of the different senses as you can and the different learning styles in your lessons as possible, because that is what is going to keep our students engaged and increase their probability of retaining the information. And this is just the last works cited page. And in the bottom right of each slide, I put the book for ones that just used the book. Just wanted to add that. Thank you for listening.